Well, this is JC. Today I'm going to be installing this Humminbird 698 CI HD. Got a little bit of a head start, and I'll kind of show you what I've done already. Here's the battery. This is the cranking battery, which powers the engine. I've just run a power lead and a ground, and these are just kind of sitting out here. This right here has a 3 amp fuse in it, and I brought that into the line that goes to the head unit itself. So that's all ready to go. That's the only thing I've really done so far. I've just kind of planned everything out. I'm going to try to mount the transducer most likely right here. It has to be at least 15 inches away from the propeller and any obstruction. And you can look down here, there's right there is a pretty big obstruction, which is going to cause some turbulence. And then you also want to keep it away from these right here that come out. So if you look right through here, looks to be about the cleanest bit of hole that I have. So I think I'm going to end up mounting my transducer right here. The one problem I'm going to have is that I have these straps that come up to here, and then my transducer is going to be right here. If I put it here, then it's going to be sitting on this bunk. So I'm going to have to try to figure out a way that I can still strap this down. So we'll see what happens. So the first thing the instructions say to do is to mount your control head. So I'm going to place it right here. That way I can see it from the seat, or if I'm sitting here driving the boat, I'll be able to glance over and see it. This has side imaging and down imaging as well as GPS, so I should be able to see that from sitting right over there. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this. I've got to mark the 4 holes and then drill them. Okay, so I got the 4 holes drilled. They're 9/64 inch, and I'm going to use these 4 number 8 Phillips countersink wood screws to attach the base. So before I put this down with the screws, make note that I cut out these little divots here so that the cables can go underneath of it. I don't have a hole. I'm definitely not going to drill a 1-inch hole in the platform of my boat. So I'm just going to run the cabling along this channel that comes with the MPV, the Ranger boat. This is going to hide the cabling fairly decently right through there. They can run it back. So I'll punch these holes out. I'll put the cabling underneath of that first, pull them up, get those set to where they need to be, and then I'll put the screws in it and tighten them down, hand tight only. Probably leave them a little bit loose just in case I need to move these wires a little bit. And then once I feel really good with the way I've got it, then I'll tighten them down tight. So before I screw this down, make note that I put 4 little dabs of silicone, little marine grade silicone. Just put them on the dots, well, the holes, and then when you put your screws in, it'll just seal it up. Okay, so I've screwed this down, hand tight only, with a screwdriver. Don't use a drill bit or a power drill; it'll strip it out. And then make sure my wires can still move, which they can. Then you want this on the left. This is your power, positive and ground, and then this right here is going to be the cable that goes run back to your transducer. So now I'm going to mount the control head unit onto the mount. Okay, to accomplish this next task, we're going to need these 2 pieces right here. This is a little steel bracket, and then this plastic piece here, and you can see there's indentations there where your cables will slide up, and this longer piece here is going to go at the bottom like that. That will snap in and screw in, and then your metal bracket is going to slide over top of this and hold the cables in place so that they don't wiggle around. So it's going to go right on top of that like that. Okay, so now I'm going to feed the cables up. If you look, there's a lip right there. and there's a lip right here on the cable, so it could only go in one way. So this one's going to go on the far left, and the bigger one's going to go on the far right. Obviously the transducer cables can only fit in one of them, so I'm just going to run those all up through there. Okay, so I've got the cables in place now. They snapped in, and I've got this over top of the bracket over top of it, and you can see the wires now are being held in place by the steel bracket. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the wires back in and let this little bracket slap in. There's two little screw holes that you'll see on either side right there, and then these two screw holes right here and here will have to slide into that, and then you'll put these two screws right here. They're number 6 32 by 3/4 inch. They don't have the tip on them, so they're not going to be like a wood screw. So now I'm going to slide this in here, and then again, this is why it's important to make sure that this isn't tightened too much so that you can work these wires, pull them back through a little bit. Okay, now that's in place, snapped in. Now I'm going to put these screws in. Okay, now you can mount the head unit down onto the bracket. There's the connections. They're going to go right on top of that. Just make sure you line this up right here along the outside, and then it snaps in just like that. If you want to take it out, you just push that in and pop it back out. And then you can also mount it back and forth. Now that this is nice and tight in there and I got everything in the place that I want, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down their screws and then route these wires back. Okay, so I got it mounted now. It's in a nice position. You can crank it up or down. I can sit here in my seat, have a good view of it. I can also sit over here in the driver's side. So if I'm on the move, I should be able to see it from here. So I like the way that's located. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these wires, the power wire and the transducer wire, and run it in this bottom lip. You can see right there I've already got the power cables for the front sonar unit already in there. So I'll just have to put these in there and then put this back over top of it. It's just a molding that covers it up. So we'll run both of these back here to the back and run them underneath that and all the way down into the back here where I'll be hooking it up to the transducer and to the battery. So the easiest way to get this tubing back in here, this lip, is to put the bottom piece in first. Right there, put the bottom piece in, and then take something and kind of slide that in the lip. Because what it is it's a two-piece lip. You can see there's a lip here and there's a lip there, and that slides into that each part of that groove. So I'll put the bottom in first, and then I try to either take a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver. I've been using this wrench here too, just to get that started. And then you can pound it in, and then I can take this rubber mallet and just kind of give it a light tap, and it goes in place. So you can see, like I was talking before, you can slide this into this crevice down there, and then you place the bottom piece on there first. Now I'm getting a screwdriver, and I'll just kind of push that lip in. Oops, and push, just like that. Just kind of pull it in, and then you can take your hammer, make sure it's tight, and then just keep working it in. I try to make sure these cables are in a good spot here, kind of not just right in the middle. Then put the bottom lip in first, and then push that in. Just keep working it in. Okay, so I've got everything all routed up and everything all put back together. So now we'll bring this back and bring our wires down into here, group them up, and then we'll mount the transducer down here, and bring them up over the top, and then that should be the end of the install. Okay, so the next parts you'll need are going to be these parts right here. This is what you're going to mount to your transom. This slides in here and snaps down after you drill in your holes right here and here. And this is going to snap in, and then these go on either side of this. Sorry. And then that's going to snap onto your transom. So you essentially have to take these and put them on the sides like that. They just slide right in there. Their little teeth. And you got the big ends there. So they snap into each side of it. And then this will snap in over top of it. You have to get it at the right angle, so that's kind of the tricky part. So I'm just going to finagle a little bit and get it set to where it needs to be, then I'll show you what I come up with. So now I'm down here underneath the back of the boat, and if you look here, this has a little lip right there, and there's a lip right there, and this is on your transducer. So what you want to do is you want to line those up so that line like that, so that those come into a line with each other. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So now I'm just making sure that the boat's level. I raised it to the front end. I raised it until it was level. Also need to kind of check side to side as well. And it's pretty good. Okay, so what I've done now is made a plate. And this is just out of PVC piping, or not piping, but PVC board. It's what you use on the exterior of a house. It's got the grain on the back of it. I drilled 4 holes, 1 in each corner. And I kind of wiped it down and also sanded down the edges a little bit, just make it a little bit smoother. Then I put it in place and drilled those holes right on through into the hull of the boat. So now I could just screw this in. So what I'm going to do is fill this up with silicone. I'm going to put around the edge of it here a line, and then I'll go in and make another line in here, and then a big dab in the middle. And then I'll just shove that right on and drill the screws in and let that dry, and that'll give me a nice tight. I'm also going to fill the holes in with silicone so that I'm going to put 4 drops on the holes that I drilled in the boat, and then 4 here on this side, and then also 4 on this side, so it'll all be nice and watertight. Okay, so the way this screw ends up going in is your cord's here, your mount's here, you put the bolt on this side, and you put the head on this side, and you hold this in place with this hand, and then you tighten the wrench and just make sure my lines line up there, and that's really all you have to do until it gets tight. I'm going to leave it a little bit loose. I'm going to probably tighten just a little bit more, but I'll leave it just a little bit loose so I can turn it to the angle that I want and make sure I get it at the right angle. Okay, so I got the plate mounted, and I countersinked the bits just a tad bit, just so it would snug down real tight. And along the edges where it oozed out, I just took a rag and wiped it off so that it would become kind of smooth. It kind of gives it a nice good seal. So now what I'll do is I'll put my transducer up here, get a measurement on it, and pull it kind of down, see where I feel like it needs to be. Then I'll put 2 screws in. Then I'll pull it down, get it set where I want, mark it, pull that back up, and then put the screws in it. So I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I'm getting this bracket here. I'm gonna put it in place, and then I'm gonna get my level and put on top of it, make sure it's level as compared to what the boat is, which is pretty level. And then I will mark these 2 big lines to either side of my thumb. I'll just circle the whole thing, and then I'll take it off and try to get in the upper portion so I can raise it and lower it a bit, but somewhere near the middle, that way I can raise it up or down depending on where it needs to go. And then I'll put the 2 screws in. I'll put the transducer back in place and get it set to where I want it. I'll have this just kind of pretty tight, but not real tight. And then I'll mark where it needs to go once I get it to where I want. Now I have the holes drilled, and I marked those. And I'm going to take 2 of these screws, probably these right here. These are self-tappers. And the thing is, I want to make sure that when they go in, that they don't go all the way through and hit the hull, because you want it to be nice and tight. And these are a little bit shorter, so I'm going to use these and put the bracket on and get it pretty tight, and I'll snap on the transducer to make sure that it's where I want it, then I'll mark it. So now I have the transducer back in place. It just goes in behind here, just kind of snaps in, and then I went ahead and made those 2 screws, tightened those in, left it relatively loose so I can just adjust it as I need to. Then I'm going to pop this down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my level, and I'm going to test it for level, get it as close to level as I can. Let me, hold on just a second. So now I have the transducer on there and it's level as I can get it. You just barely move that thing, it comes out level, but so it's pretty close. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this down and make sure that this is where I want it. I want it to be flush with the bottom of the boat here, or just a tad bit below. And then you want this to be level as well. So let me try to get that set for you. All I'm doing to pop this off is you take a flathead screwdriver, stick it up underneath here, and just kind of twist it a little bit. Of course now it won't come off. There it goes. Come on. Anyway, that's what you do. I'm going to probably use 2. There it is. Okay, I got it. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten those down, put a screw down here at the bottom, and then after I flip this over, put 1 more screw there, and I'm done. Now everything's tightened down. It's ready to go. Now what I'll do is I'm going to put a little grommet right here to hold this in place, and then I'll run the cord up and over, and on the other side I'll screw another grommet in to make it nice and tight. I've got the grommet in place. So we'll make sure there's a little bit of play in this. You don't want it too tight, so I just kind of moved it down. Just kind of pushed it in place here. And I'm just going to screw it in. That's the one good thing about having this plate in here instead of just screwing all these into your hull. It's just 4 holes is all there is, and then everything else kind of attaches to it, which makes it really nice. Okay, now that's nice and tight, snug. Now this roll up. Now follow it up and over to this side. Put it right there, down here, and I'll put a grommet about right there, and then that'll hold it nice and tight. So the last thing I did was I got my grommet in place, and then I just kind of zip tied everything. Brought these wires down, zip tied it there at the bottom, just make it a little neat. And down here too. But one of the things I did do is I made sure that I got a little bit of working room here. That way, if you need to change the fuse, you can get at it, and your ground, you can take it off, and it won't be real tight. So pretty happy with that. Now all I have to do is put the fuse in, and then it should be all fired up. Now I'm going to take all the protective wraps off. So there's that one. And then up here, I'll go ahead and take this off as well. I should be able to fire this puppy up and see what happens. If it don't come on, then I guess I'll be troubleshooting a bit. Right, well, there's loading. Yay.